Okay guys, so I've ended the poll. It was the battle of the Canoptek units, and it was the Canoptek Doomstalker that won with 40% of the votes from 1,600 of the votes. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing today. In fact, the next poll has gone live earlier on today, so get involved in that if you haven't already. So vote on the next important questions video. And comment of the day, I have remembered it this time, is from Rock Ranch Cowboy. Love the sculpt and idea of snipers, but I have the points. If I had the points, I would take a hex mark every time. So that's in relation to the hex mark. No, that's in relation to the death marks that was in the previous video. So today, the Doomstalker, we've got 8 questions. I have counted them pre-recording for once. Are they really an anti-tank vehicle? How many is too many? Are they just cheap vehicles? These questions will be answered, plus many more. Also, I'm changing up the style of the video, just freshen things up a bit, so yeah, let me know what you think down below. Right then, let's get on with the Canoptek Doomstalker. 145 points is our Canoptek construct. Of course, it's a vehicle model. We're going to get into question number 1. What is the Doomstalker's best detachment? It's one of our go-to questions now. I do like the detachment questions. It's, of course, the Canoptek Core. I mean, they aren't fantastic in the other detachments. Let's work this out. I mean, they hit on 4s. That's the main problem, is the fact that they naturally hit on a 4+. And in all those other detachments, there may be ways of pushing that to a 3+, i.e. using the enhancement. And of course, it's got heavy anyway, so it can just stay still. But ideally, you want to move into a better firing lane and just get in visibility on enemy units. So the Canoptek Core is definitely the go-to. And you're going to be re-rolling 1s and potentially re-rolling everything. Most likely re-rolling everything if you're sitting still in your home deployment zone. But not only within this detachment do you get that ability, you've also got access to stratagems that could be pretty decent for a Doomstalker. I wanted to go through a few with you now. Reactive subroutines for 1 CP, which is in your opponent's movement phase. 1 Canoptek unit within 9 inches of an enemy unit. That has just moved within 9, and you can basically make an all move up to 6 inches. So what you would do ideally with the Doomstalker is move away. Move away or move into a firing lane potentially where you can see a certain target. They maybe not have range on you, on your unit. So it saves you from moving in your next turn, so that you keep your heavy keyword in play. Also, it's going to help because maybe your opponent isn't going to be able to charge a Doomstalker now, because you've just moved 6 inches away. You've got another one, counter-temporal shift for another 1 CP, again in your opponent's turn, in their shooting phase this time. 1 Canoptek unit, basically gives them low op, but they can only be targeted if they're within 18 inches. So if you're going up against a faction such as Tau and they're going for those long-range shots, 48 inch or whatever they've got nowadays, you can just turn this on that 1 Doomstalker that's sticking out, line of sight, and go, you know what? 1 CP, you now can't target that Doomstalker. They've got to readjust, change their plans, and it saves your Doomstalker from dying. So yeah, there's obviously a few more stratagems that are available, such as getting reanimation protocols off if you get charged and things like that, but they're the 2 main ones that I think could work with a Doomstalker. Next question, how many is too many? This was actually a question from Rollman3D. How many Doomstalkers is too many? Now I'm going to presume that we're within the Canoptek Core here, because if you're not within the Canoptek Core, you're probably doing it wrong. I think you're better off going with something else. I'd go all 3. I'd take all 3 slots, Canoptek Doomstalkers. The damage output from the Canoptek Core is ridiculous for a Doomstalker when you're re-rolling everything, when you've got D6+1 with Blast, Strength 14. When you've got that times by 3, and then the damage 3, of course, it becomes quite a lot. So if you're playing the Canoptek Core, I would take all 3 of them. Why wouldn't you? It's a fantastic artillery piece for the entire faction, really. If you were again to take something like a Doomsday Arc, you're not really re-rolling stuff in the Canoptek Core. If you're not taking the Canoptek Core, then again, there's better options. You're probably better off going somewhere else, unless you're really short on points. If you've only got 145 points, maybe you stick it in, but maybe you go with something else, like a Triax Stalker, or something else along those sort of cheap budget vehicle lines. So are they anti-tank then? They've sort of been in and out of the anti-tank sort of bracket for a while now. In the Canoptek Core, I'd say yes. but I don't really consider them anti-tank because of damage 3. Now damage 3 is good, don't get me wrong, but within the Canoptek Court, they are good. You're getting a lot more attacks, a lot more hits, a lot more things going through armor saves, so it starts to stack up as anti-tank. But again, if you're not playing in the Canoptek Court, it really isn't. It's more anti-elite infantry. Now, if you are hitting on 3s because of your heavy keyword and you're re-rolling all the hit rolls with 3 of these things, you're going to average 13 to 14 shots with the trio. If you're re-rolling all the hits, you're going to get around 12 hits on average, and then that's going to give you an average of 8 wounds against your your tanks and monsters and stuff. Not the big huge stuff, not the mega monolith kind of level, but the standard stuff where you're wounded on 3s, you're going to average 8 wounds. Now, anything that's got a standard 3+ armor save with no invulnerable save is going to take about 18 to 21 damage. You're literally just going to wreck stuff, maybe multiples of stuff. If they do have a 4+ invulnerable save, which is quite common nowadays, then you're looking at more like 12 damage, which is still quite good, and it still would take off a vehicle model or a monster model. 12 wounds, not too bad. Now, if you're going up against 3 wound models, such as Chaos Bikers, for example, then they're also quite effective. They're quite effective. A single Doomstalker alone is going to kill 3 or 4 of these models, of these bikes, depending on if Blast is on, I suppose. I mean, if it's a 5-man unit or a 6-man unit, yeah, it'll kill 3 or 4. If you're only in 3s, then it probably won't do that kind of number. Against Terminators, it's slightly different because they've got a 2+ armor save with a 4+ invulnerable save. One Doomstalker will probably kill a couple of Terminators at best, so it's not as easy to take out those kind of units. What about the anti-tank competition? Now, the 2 main competing units within our Necrons Codex are the Locust Heavy Destroyers with the Ghost Destructors and Doomsday Arcs. There are, of course, others, and not just that range, in melee as well, Nightbringers and so on, but I wanted to focus on these 2 because these are the most commonly used that are considered anti-tank. Now, there are pros and cons to both of these units as well as the Doomstalker. The Locust Heavies are cheap, 50 points or 50, are they 50 or 55? I can't remember if they went up. I think they went up, didn't they? They did go up, 55 points a model. They hit on 2s with heavy, not 3s with heavy. They can be led with the Locust Lord to get criticals on a 5+. Reanimation protocols, as well as, not reanimation protocols, resurrection orb is what I meant to say there. Damage 6 rather than damage 3, and you can take up to 9 models in competitive play. Of course, they lack the toughness and they lack the invulnerable save, and as soon as you lose models, you're going to start to lose shots. So that's the pros and cons to a Locust Heavy. Doomsday Arc, they also hit on 2s with heavy, higher strength of strength 18. They've got access to devastating wounds if they stay still, damage 4, which is better than Doomstalker's damage 3, better defensive stats with the toughness and the amount of wounds they've got, and they've got the Ghost Flare arrays on the sides, which are an added bonus. Now, these are 45 points more compared to the Doomstalker, so you kind of get what you pay for there, really. They're the 2 main competitors for the anti-tank. All 3 are good in my opinion. But again, I know I keep reverting back to it, but it's all about the Canoptek Court if you're going Doomstalkers. The rerolls are key. Is the Sentinel construct ability any good? Let's write the word any. There we go. So this ability basically allowed you to do Overwatch on a 5+. So in your opponent's turn, when you're doing it in either their movement phase or their charge phase, 1 CP, do Overwatch on a 5+. Now, in the Canoptek Court, this is a very powerful ability because, remember, you can re-roll all your attacks if you're within your power matrix. It's not just in your shooting phases as soon as you make an attack. It might just be ones, it might be all the hit rolls, depending on your power matrix and how you've got it unlocked. But it's on a 5+, and yeah, I mean, D6 +1 attacks and blast as well, don't forget. So you should potentially get quite a lot of shots there. So I would personally milk the absolute crap out of this stratagem if you are playing the Canoptek Court with Doomstalkers. Why wouldn't you? It's an extra shooting phase in the turn. If you do this 4 or 5 times in the game, that's 4 or 5 extra shooting phases effectively where you can do some damage. So for 1 CP, you might remove a ton of models. You might remove or bracket big vehicle or something. Yeah, I would milk the absolute crap out of it. If you're not playing the Canoptek Court, yeah, I wouldn't even bother. I mean, last resort maybe, but it's gonna be it's gonna be fives. You're not re-rolling anything. It's not. You still get a third of the dice, but without the re-rolls there, so it's not going to be as easy. So is the Canoptek Doomstalker just a cheap vehicle? It's sort of in that price range or points cost range. Triumph Stalker's 110 nowadays. The Annihilation Barge is 105 nowadays. It's 145 points, so it's not quite the upper levels of the Doomsday Arcs and your Doom Scythes and Monoliths and so on. But it's not super duper cheap like the Annihilation Barges and so on. Now, the reason why we take these cheap vehicles is for things like objective control, for added damage output, for zoning out, screening out, maybe it's enemy deep strikes, maybe it's just to block incoming charges and things like that, or just a distraction. If you've got a Triumph Stalker using Scout going up the left flank, your opponent probably has to deal with it, otherwise it's going to start scoring. So it could be a cheap way to distract your opponent. It all depends on the rest of your list though. If you've not got the Canoptek Court on, or you've got plenty of other big guns, like your Doomsday Arcs, your Locust Heavy Destroyers and so on, then you're better off going for the other cheaper options, because you've already got the big guns. Triumph Stalkers are probably a better bet at that point. They're going to do a little bit more for you in terms of the no man's land. But if you're lacking those heavy support weaponry, then yeah, I think they're probably worth taking, especially for the points cost. 145 is pretty cheap. But are they a cheap vehicle? They're sort of almost. I think I would prefer Stalkers if I had other big guns. Are they worth screening? We just mentioned they're 145 points, they're sort of reasonably cheap. Are they worth screening with your Canoptek Scarabs maybe? So you're spending 40 points for your Scarabs. But for me, again, it all depends on the rest of your list. If you've got more important units like the Silent King, maybe you've got a Monolith, maybe you've got, again, your Locust Heavies, Doomsday Arcs, you want to screen off those units because they're a lot more expensive. Well, the Locust Heavies aren't really, because they're 100 and whatever they are nowadays, 165 for 3. So maybe not them, but your big stuff are probably the units that you really want to screen, or your infantry with loads of OC like your Immortals. Maybe you want to screen those. Remember, this is a vehicle model, so it can fire out of engagement range. It's not going to be able to fire its Doomsday Blaster within its own engagement range because it's got Blast, but you can still fire it out elsewhere, as long as it's not into another engagement range. So all it's going to do is give you a -1 to hit, but again, for the 15 millionth time in this video, if you're playing the Canoptek Court, you're re-rolling everything, so it's sort of okay. If you're not playing the Court, and you've got a -1 to hit, then it becomes a bit of a situation. It's a bit of a problem. As soon as they get tagged, yeah. So that's when you probably would need to screen them, but you probably shouldn't have took them in the first place if you're not playing the Canoptek Court. Also, you would actually screen them in another situation if you were just castling up. If you were playing the kind of list that's got, you know, the Silent King or a Tesseract Bolt, and you're just castling up in a certain location, maybe it's mission dependent, or maybe it's just the way you want to play this game, then why not screen them? You're going to screen everything anyway, but 1000% screen them off. What about other protection? We've got 3 units on the screen here. Canoptek Spiders that provide you the Feel No Pain aura. So a 6+ Feel No Pain save for vehicles within, is it 6 inches or 3 inches? Can never remember, whatever it is. Or you've got the Reanimator with the Reanimation Protocols, or an extra dice for the Reanimation Protocols, an extra D3, handy. Or even a Technomancer virtually doing the same thing, healing an extra D3. Now, similar sort of answer to the previous question, you're probably not going to spend 75 points to defend a unit that's 145 points, unless you've got 3 of them maybe, and you've got a whole trio of them, maybe even there's other vehicles nearby too, and you're probably playing the Canoptek Court. If you are, then why not? Why not bring a Spider to help these guys out, or a Reanimator to boost all 3 in the trio out? The Technomancer, not so much. They will likely be going with the Canoptek Wraiths, and they will likely be going well ahead into the No Man's Land and beyond. because they move 10 inches. So the Technomancer isn't likely going to be there unless you start mixing it up and putting them with Immortals, maybe, and that way they won't go as far. Who knows, but you don't really need the OC in your home deployment area. You need to be sort of expanding. So Technomancer probably is a no-go, but the Spider or the Reanimator, definitely, why not? If you're playing Canoptek Core and you've got 3 of them, yes. If you are not, again, then no, you definitely wouldn't. If you missed any of these videos, go back and check them out and make sure you are subscribed. I'll see you next time.